Good morning, afternoon or evening, wherever you are in the world. As always, this is Nick Banks for all things PlayStation 4 with a Titanfall 2 review for you today. Yeah, that's right, so Titanfall 2 came out. Did anyone notice? I wouldn't have if this wasn't my job away from work. It was a sneaky one. Have we not heard much on it because it's rubbish? Well, no, it's great fun actually. Just a case of bad timing because it came out, obviously, right after Battlefield 1. No one wants to spend more than £100 on video games in 1 month, right? Right? Anyway, moving swiftly on, as many of you may or may not know, Titanfall 1 was only available on the Xbox One. EA have deigned that it releases on PlayStation 4 now. I don't know why. Maybe they looked at the console sales figures and thought to themselves, well, maybe there's some more money in that region of console gaming. Who knows? I'm going to try not to gloat and boast my arse off on that one. But Respawn Entertainment, the game's developers, have actually had a go at making a campaign. It's not something that they did last time around. So how have their efforts turned out on Titanfall 2? They've actually done an alright job, and emphasis on the word alright there. Titanfall 2's campaign is great fun, don't get me wrong, all the sliding and the jumping and the sci-fi action, and your AI sidekick BT, big giant stomping robot with no sense of humour, ironically making him funny. It's all a lot of fun. But from a technical standpoint, the campaign in Titanfall 2 is just kind of alright. I couldn't help ignoring similarities to Halo. Back when I owned a 360, I really loved Halo. And there's a lot of similarities in Titanfall 2 with what the antagonists are doing, what they want to do with their evil master plan, etc, etc, yada yada. Play it for yourself. If you've played Halo, then you'll be the same. I tried to ignore it, but eventually it couldn't be ignored. It feels a little bit uninspired, the campaign in Titanfall 2. It's a set of first-person sequences. You never have a detachment from your character to see what else is going on in the game world and in the universe. You hear different comms radios and things that are going on elsewhere, but you never really see them. And the only real cutscene is right at the end of the game, where the camera pans away from your character and you actually see his face for the first time. So as a result, as fun as this campaign is to play, it all just feels a little bit disjointed. One loading screen comes along after you've finished a level, and then the next level starts after the loading screen, and you're somewhere else altogether, and you think, well, hang on a second, have I missed something here? Has something gone wrong? And it just so happens that, and this actually happened, BT had dropped me down a hole in that little loading screen, and said words to the effect of, I've dropped you down a hole because there's something interesting down there, and I think you should check it out. I'm gonna chill out up here and see you on the other side. And as a player, you're sat there and you're thinking, all right then, okay, off I go. But there are a lot of cool moments in the campaign as well. It's just a shame that they didn't play more on the whole Titan-pilot bond. There's something on the back of the box that suggests, inverted commas, a captivating campaign. And it also suggests this Titan-pilot bond. But the campaign, captivating is a little bit too strong a word for it. It's fun, but it's not really captivating. When I hear captivating, I think The Last of Us, for example. I nearly said The Last of Us 2 then, which doesn't exist, but The Last of Us. That's captivating stuff. This is fairly standard, default sci-fi story foray. So I'm going to use a fancy word here. Titanfall 2 is a little bit of a dichotomy. It's a two-sided coin, and this is what made it kind of tough to review. On the one side of the coin, you've got fairly average, from a technical standpoint, average to low quality. But in terms of a game as a product that serves to entertain you, it does its job very well, and it is indeed very fun indeed. It's technically mediocre. You've got an AI partner. We've seen it all before, but it just so happens that this AI partner is a great big lumbering robot, which is also really cool. The campaign is fairly standard. The graphics as well, that's just in an area of its own. Again, it's a two-sided coin. Graphics one moment will look great, the next not so good. So what I mean by this is that you've got distance shots, you've got these great sci-fi fantastical planets, and of course a lot of these areas are big wide open spaces for all the free running, the double jumping, the wall running that you'll be doing. So these big open spaces have actually led to an unfortunate sacrifice in quality when you get up close and personal with, say, the character models or the objects in the game. Sadly, sadly you will start to see quite muddy textures and soft textures. And actually, I'm going to go into the character models a little bit more. Let's just take a look at this grunt right here. I saw his face and I just had to stop and see it some more. I mean, it just looks like a... I don't know, it looks like a potato with a slit in it and a couple of tree ball mints stuck on the top. I'm sorry, it looks awful. And the character models in this game, they are some last generation cack. I wanted to turn a blind eye to it, but they're just no good. And you have this this woman in charge of your militia fleet. Not only did she kind of start to annoy me with all her cheesy dialogue, which she will remind you of every single multiplayer match that you play at the start, but her face as well. I don't know what it is about her face. It just annoys me. It looks like the Wilson football from Castaway once Tom Hanks tried to humanize it by sticking some hair on the top of it and rubbing some eyes on the front. She's just annoying. I hope she's not in the next game anyway, if there's going to be a next game, because I don't know. I just can't explain it. She just has an annoying face, a bit like Emperor Palpatine. So the campaign is, strictly speaking, technically mediocre, but it's actually really fun to play. And I'll fight its corner on that area. It is really fun to play. If you pick up and play the campaign for Titanfall 2, I promise you, you're going to have a blast. Even if maybe the concept of the story is a little bit weak. But let's all leave that behind us now and focus on what Respawn are really good at doing. That's the multiplayer. And this is where their expertise as game designers really comes to light. So people like me who enjoy fast-paced multiplayer and a little bit of an arcadey, jumpy-aroundy kind of experience, who have to grit their teeth and wave goodbye to COD, they're going to love the multiplayer in Titanfall 2, because Titanfall 2's multiplayer is basically what COD is trying and failing to do right now. Beta players will understand all of this. Obviously, if you played the beta before, then you know that there's a good, consistent sense of fairness, and I'm very happy to report this, as there was a good, consistent sense of fairness in my last game review, that being Battlefield 1. So it looks like EA and the developers that work under EA are really stepping up their game with multiplayer and leaving the whole jaded, unfair, frustrating idea of playing an online multiplayer match that COD has generated behind. So that's awesome. I can get behind that. Good news. Sadly, there aren't that many maps in Titanfall 2's multiplayer. In this grim world of DLC and spending more money after you've bought a product, who knows, maybe there will be more maps on the way, and there aren't many weapons either, and you actually need to put in a heck of a lot of work in Titanfall 2's multiplayer to accumulate the many points needed just to unlock one thing. So this got me scratching my head a little bit. I thought for a minute, maybe there's some sneaky pay-to-win stuff going on here. Now, I've had a good look around. Maybe I'm just not as adept at the menu screen as Respawn may have intended, but I haven't noticed any pay-to-win, buy your battle packs, buy your extra bits and bobs here section. So no, as far as I can see, and I'm happy to be corrected on this, but as far as I can see, you just have to play an absolute shedload of Titanfall 2 to unlock things, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, because it just so happens the multiplayer for Titanfall 2 is crazy fun and super addictive. Bounty Hunt still takes top position. Again, if you played the beta, then you'll know what Bounty Hunt is all about. You'll be rushing in certain time sections of a match to cash in your points without dying on the way, and that can be frustrating, but it's addictive as hell. And of course you've got all your other standard multiplayer fare here, like Domination and Team Deathmatch. So you get pretty much what you'll expect with an online shooter, but the way it handles in the multiplayer is fantastic. If you're if you're using the harpoon gun, or you're sprinting and sliding and wall running and doing all that fancy technical stuff, there's just something about the mechanics and the way that Respawn has implemented these things that make them really easy to use. And even if you're not actually winning a match or doing very well, for some reason, you still feel like a pro, and by the end of the match you think, oh yeah, I'm going to be at the top of the scoreboard, and you're actually 4th or 5th down, but it doesn't matter because you've had a whole bunch of fun with it. So I'm just going to make a little departure here and just talk about Pacific Rim for a minute. Now, when Pacific Rim came out, questionable title as it is, the content of that film was all about great big lumbering robots and killing off great big lumbering monsters, and it was all very extreme, and lots of people kind of just shrugged it off and said it was silly. I thought it looked really silly when I saw the trailers, but when I eventually sat down and watched the film, I realised that it satisfied my inner child, the inner child that watched Power Rangers and Godzilla versus King Kong and all that crazy nonsense. And in a way, Titanfall kind of appeals to all of that. So I really like Titanfall, but as a video game, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. And please don't go thinking that's a bad score. 7 out of 10 is still a really blooming good score. And the reason it lost out on the 8 there is because unless Respawn come up with some new maps soon, coupled with the whole sales issue, I can't really see the multiplayer lobbies lasting for a very long time, as I'm sure they will with Battlefield 1, the other EA release this month, which has sadly eclipsed Titanfall 2. So with Titanfall 2 releasing so closely to Battlefield 1, it is having a hard time with its sales, as I say. Its release figures are actually lower than Titanfall 1, but like I said in my No Man's Sky review, sales figures are no longer indicative of whether a game is good or bad. I've had a lot of fun with Titanfall 2, while the campaign does feel a little lackluster in concept. To play, it was great fun. And the multiplayer is addictive and rewarding. I certainly feel like the Titanfall franchise deserves a second shot, or I should say a third shot, another title in the future, where it can find a release date that helps get it noticed a little bit more, as this one certainly deserves. I understand that if you've already bought Battlefield this month, the idea of another £50 odd purchase is a little bit off-putting, but if you grab Titanfall 2, I promise you'll have a blast. And that brings us to the end of yet another review from yours truly, Nick Banks, for all things PlayStation 4. I'll be signing off now, folks. Please do remember, if you think your chums will find this useful, if they've been scratching their head a little bit about Titanfall 2, then do feel free to share it with them. Better still, if you enjoyed this video, go right ahead and click that little subscribe button down there. I might actually make some more videos, who knows? But that's a joke, of course I'm going to make some more videos. See you on the next one for all things PlayStation 4. Peace out, guys.